In the late 1970s, America was still trying to make sense of a name that had become synonymous with terror: Ted Bundy, a man who appeared charming, intelligent, even charismatic, yet was responsible for a series of brutal murders across multiple states. But this story isn't about the height of his crimes. It's about the final months, the unraveling, the capture, and the long road toward his execution. By the time law enforcement began closing in, Ted Bundy had already been arrested once before, only to escape custody in 1977. What followed was one of the largest manhunts in American history. For months, Bundy moved across state lines under assumed identities. He cut his hair, changed his appearance, used stolen IDs. But what made Bundy dangerous wasn't just his ability to disappear, it was his ability to blend in. He could walk into a crowded room and seem ordinary, even trustworthy, and that made him harder to catch than almost any fugitive of his time. By late 1977 and into 1978, Bundy resurfaced in Florida under the alias Chris Hagen. But the calm didn't last. In January 1978, Bundy broke into the Chi Omega sorority house at Florida State University. What happened there would become one of the most infamous crime scenes in American history. 2 women were killed, and 2 others were brutally attacked. One of the survivors later described waking up to a figure moving through the dark hallway, only able to identify him as a shadow. Shortly after, Bundy attacked again, abducting and murdering 12-year-old Kimberly Leach. This final victim would become crucial, because it created a traceable pattern, and more importantly, it created mistakes. On February 15, 1978, Ted Bundy was pulled over in Pensacola, Florida. He was driving a stolen vehicle. When officers searched the car, they found suspicious items: a ski mask, handcuffs, and burglary tools. He was arrested. At first, he gave a false name, but investigators didn't need long to identify him. Ted Bundy, already one of the FBI's most wanted fugitives. This time, there would be no escape. Unlike his Colorado jail escape the previous year, authorities were prepared. He was placed under heavy surveillance. The illusion of freedom was over. What followed was one of the most televised trials in American history.
A judge in Miami today followed the jury's recommendation and sentenced Theodore Bundy to die in the electric chair for the murder of 2 co-eds. Bundy is the 136th person under death sentence in Florida. Ed Rabel reports.
Bundy chose to represent himself in court. This decision shocked legal experts. But for Bundy, it was also performance. He treated the courtroom like a stage, smiling at cameras, questioning witnesses, and attempting to control the narrative. But the evidence was mounting. Survivor testimony, forensic links, witness sightings, and eventually the Chi Omega case became the turning point. He was found guilty of murder and attempted murder. The sentence, death. In 1979, Bundy faced another trial, the murder of Kimberly Leach. This time, the evidence was overwhelming. A witness had seen a man matching Bundy's description with the girl. Fibers, location data, and circumstantial evidence tied him directly to the crime. The jury took only hours to deliberate. Guilty. Another death sentence. By now, the image of Ted Bundy in the public eye had completely changed. The charming law student persona had been replaced by something colder, something hollow. Even on death row, Bundy remained a subject of fascination. He denied responsibility for years, attempting to delay execution through appeals, confessions, and retractions.
On the one hand, well-meaning, decent people will condemn behavior of a Ted Bundy while they're walking past a magazine rack full of the very kinds of things that send young kids down the road to be Ted Bundys. That's the irony. We're talking here not just about more. What I'm talking about is going beyond retribution, which is what people want with me. Going beyond retribution and punishment, because there is no way in the world that killing me is going to restore those beautiful children to their parents and correct and soothe the pain.
Some experts believed he exhibited traits consistent with antisocial personality disorder and extreme narcissism, but even those labels struggled to fully explain the scale of his behavior. What stood out most was control. Bundy consistently tried to control perception, control narrative, control fear, even when physically confined. By late 1988, Bundy's appeals had been exhausted. He began confessing to additional murders, reportedly in exchange for delays in execution. But the strategy failed. His confessions came too late to change his fate. On January 24, 1989, Ted Bundy was executed in Florida's electric chair. Outside the prison, crowds gathered, some mourning, many celebrating. The execution marked the end of a decade-long legal saga that had gripped the nation. Ted Bundy's final months were not a story of redemption. They were a collapse, a tightening legal net, a fading ability to manipulate the system that had once allowed him to evade justice. Today, his case is studied not for who he was, but for what he revealed about trust, deception, and the limits of perception. Because the most disturbing part was never just what he did, it was how long he was able to appear as someone he was not.
But in the death chamber, Bundy was uttering his final words.
All he said is, "I'd like you to give my love to my family and friends." That was Ted Bundy's last statement.
His eyes looked like he was almost a child, and his mother called him doing something wrong. It was a combination of just being sorry and knowing that it was the end. It was the end of the line.